Hello, Rebel Elder. Hello, good afternoon to you as well. I'm just starting the stream right now, so give me a moment. I need to announce everywhere and stuff. Hey, Drunk Time Lord. I was just moving from JSON parser to HTML parser? What? Oh, you were actually, like, you wanted to do this as a Zig library. Honestly, don't let me stop you. Ultimately, my own, my goal is to write an HTML parser for my specific use case of not only parsing HTML, but also the templating language that I designed, that it's basically an extension of HTML. So ultimately, I will try, obviously, to make things, reusable, but I don't know. Maybe my thing is not going to be super general purpose. Like, my goal is not to make a library for everybody to use. My main goal. My main goal is to solve my own problem. Ideally, if it's useful for everybody, if for somebody else, then great. But really, do not let me stop you if this is something that you want to work on. Now, would be nice if I could get Epidemic Sounds to, like, run through this playlist, but I don't think it's gonna work. Like, can I even see my playlist? Hopefully this is gonna run to the next one as soon as it's done with this song. If that works, then I'll be happy. Somehow I suspect that's not gonna happen instead. Okay, also, hello, Carl Riemann on YouTube. Hello. Okay, let me do the announcements. Sorry, I was still doing those. Copy. Hello, Sum It Up. I'm watching you from Ghana. Hello. Okay, streams, paste. Okay, let's do socials. Let's see if social media is gonna work this time or if it's gonna poop itself. Success. And we also have the second song playing. That is... Wait, is this the actual second song? Mission... Oh no. What the heck is this one? You know though what? As long as it's playing, I won't complain. So, we have music. Some music. Okay, I think I did all the prep work that I needed to do. So let me go put up some tea and then we can start. I'll be right back. I'm back. I want to learn how to code. Tell me how I can start. What do I need to know or do? You want to learn how to code? I would say start with an online course. There's plenty. I honestly don't have a specific advice of what to start with, but you can find you can find videos on YouTube. But if you want something more structured, you have stuff like Coursera, for example. And if you look at Coursera, you will see that they should have also stuff for free, by the way. I think they only charge you. Some courses might be paid, but they only charge you to get like a certification, which is borderline useless in my opinion. But this is one. Another one is Udacity. There's more. I think there's one that you can find more. In any case, start with one of those. And if you want to be smart about it, you probably will need a job. And chances are that it's easier to get a job in the area that you're in than a remote job. Although it's still very possible to find a remote job. But if you see what people need in your area, then you can, like, if I imagine your goal is to find a job, you can prioritize what's needed in your area. For example, if in your area people do a lot of Java, maybe consider starting with Java, for example. Account recovery settings. Remind me later. I'm good. Oh, an HTML parsing library written in Zig. I see. Thank you, Squeak. So here's the thing. I should probably maybe take a look, but I know that I have non-standard needs. I'll give you one example. So there's two things that I need that are like somewhat peculiar. One is I do not want my parser to be fully HTML compliant. HTML compliant stuff includes something like this, for example. Like you can do this. You can do this. This is actually valid HTML. So because you are not required to close your tags. So a standard compliant parser would consider this valid. I don't want to. This is an error for me. Like I want my HTML parser to consider this an error and basically say that it's missing a closing H1 tag, or recognize that this, whatever the error reporting is going to say. The point is this should not be okay. And I think there's a couple more examples of this. It's nothing huge, but my point is that in my case, standards compliant is a problem. Because what I want to do, like, I guess maybe I should explain this a little bit, but the perspective here is my parser is designed to parse handwritten HTML. When you're handwriting HTML and you write something like this, you've forgotten the slash here. That's what happened. No, you're not putting two H1 elements one after the other while omitting the closing tag of the previous one. That never happens. YouTube is dead again. Really? Honestly, wait, the programming Siri. Hello from Melbourne, Australia. Hello, can you write iOS apps in Zig? To some degree, yes, but it's not as straightforward of an experience as it is using, the blast tools, which nowadays means Swift. So I would say if you need to write an iOS app, go with Swift. You can do stuff with Zig. Actually, you can do you can intermingle the two things. Like you can have your Swift stuff call into Zig, but obviously that comes with some jankiness, and it's worth doing it. It's worth doing through those extra steps only if you really get value out of it. I posted about this. a while ago. Well, a long while ago. Sharing data between Zig and Swift. Mapping types between Zig and Swift. Man, I was supposed to make a fourth one, which I never did. In any case, so there's interoperability that you can get, but yeah. Wouldn't start with that. So YouTube is dead again. Let me see. Because I don't think that... Let me see. For me, it's loading fine. Like, I'm looking at it right now, and it's fine. So, Andrew, I don't know, refresh YouTube. I'm not dropping frames. I can also tell you that. So, I suspect this might be on your end, not me. This time. Yesterday, it totally me for a while. I don't know why. Like, internet. Good morning from Atlanta, from Georgia. Hello. Can Zig use the C library? Hello, Bifredo. Hello, hello. Hey, Memphis. Okay, we have all the American... all the American locations in chat. I'm joking. So, can Zig use the C library? Yes, it can. This is a question in YouTube chat. It can, but it doesn't want to. As in, you can do it if you have C dependencies that require depending on like glibc. Fine, you can link to against glibc. It works. But honestly, if you can avoid the C standard library, you should avoid the C standard library. Like if you're writing Zig code and you don't have any C dependency, or the C dependencies that you have don't have a dependency in turn on the C standard library, you don't need the C standard library to make an executable work with Zig, because a Zig executable can use the Zig standard library, and the Zig standard library doesn't need the C standard library. I should put a star here. The star, like there's a caveat. The caveat is this is only true on platforms that allow you to not use the C standard library. There are platforms where the C standard library is mandatory, where the API of the OS is the C standard library. On those platforms, you have to link against the C standard library, and there's nothing you can do about it. Does lazy compilation not work for C imports? I think I would need you to be a little bit more specific with this statement. So, if by C import you mean literally using @C import and then @C include in it to use those C definitions in your Zig code, then those C dependencies... So what about lazy compilation? I believe that lazy compilation will apply to those in that case, because, for example, if your C header files that you have @C imported contain constructs that cannot be translated to Zig correctly, they will be translated at compile error as compile errors. So you will find a definition, maybe, you know, a macro. A macro gets defined, but the macro is... but the macro contains like textual shenanigans that cannot be translated to Zig code. In that case, that construct will be translated as a compile error, but as long as you don't refer to it specifically, like as long as you don't use it, that specific definition, then you will be fine. So you can have your C imports, your header files, partially result into compile errors, but as long as you don't use those definitions, you're fine. And that works because of lazy evaluation. So in that sense, it does work. But then if you need something, if you mean something else, then using libc makes compile super slow. The first time, yes. The first time, because Zig ships libcs in source form. They are not precompiled. Other compilers ship them precompiled, but we don't. So the first time you will have to build the libc. And yeah, it takes a moment. You know, clench your teeth and get past it. After that, it shouldn't be like this anymore. unless something else is happening to you. But like I can tell you that the first time you have to compile the libc, but you don't have to do that other times because it gets cached. That said, if you're using a CI or some other, like, virtualized environment, then who knows? Like if you have an environment where you lose your cache every single time, then yeah. Is that terminal emulator ghosty? It is indeed ghosty. Yep, we're ghosting. So somebody's asking, where are you located? I'm located in Europe, northern Italy specifically. I'm from Nepal. Is there any multi-platform targeted framework in Zig, web, Android, and desktop? There is some of that. So the examples that I can think of are the one from Felix. Does anybody remember what the one from Felix was called? Wait, is it because of the M? Wait, did he rename his account? Wait, what happened? What's Felix's GitHub account? Okay, let's look at Zig args. Oh, right. Yeah, thank you. So he had, well, he has an Android template, but he had something else. Zero graphics. I think it's zero graphics. Application framework based on OpenGL ES 2.0 runs on desktop machines, Android phones, and the web. So like same application on Android, web, and stuff. So this is one. It depends on like how specific is your need for the multi-platform stuff, like which of those platforms you care more or less. But more in general, there's also Mac Engine, which like for example, I'm not sure how much web it does, but it certainly does all the other platforms. It's mainly geared towards games, but you don't have to use the game stuff. So if you're making a normal application, you can make a normal application using Mac, which is, for example, what Pixie does. Pixie is a pixel editor, fairly multi-platform, I believe. Let's see. Cross-platform open source pixel editor. It doesn't do mobile, but because it's a pixel editor and it like, kind of insane to doing pixel art on your iPhone, I guess. Well, maybe not insane, but obviously not a prioritized example. So in any case, point being, Pixie uses Mac Engine, so you can do stuff with it. It's compiling the entire libc though, right? That's what I meant by not lazy. Oh, yes, it is compiling the whole libc. Yes, Zig cannot do... okay, the point is, if you're using C import, so here's the difference. If you're using C import, C imported stuff can be lazy because it gets translated to Zig, and Zig definitions can be analyzed lazily. But if you're linking against the libc, the act of linking means that you're providing the linker with a bunch of object files. And you need the object files first. And to get the object files, you need to compile everything. So in that sense, this is why originally when you asked this question, I was pointing out specifically at C import. At C import is lazy. Linking against a C library requires you to build the C library first. And there is no laziness there. there's only compilation units and object files. Hello, CryptoCode. Good evening. Would it be feasible for Zine to become a multi-user blogging platform? For example, replace something like Zig News. Someone submits markup, it gets converted to static HTML, and the site updates itself. Maybe even the same for comments. That would be certainly an interesting idea. I think it would be feasible. Honestly, personally, I wouldn't do it for comments, but for the rest, it could be doable. It would actually be interesting, you know, an interesting, innovative way of creating something like this. It would be kind of curious for sure. I guess the problem is that, you know, what Zig News with the current implementation gives you is I guess from this perspective, what it mainly gives you that you would lose with this system is like a permission system, right? Where you know, you can push to and change your own stuff, but you cannot change other people's stuff. That said, you know what? Maybe this could be solved in a different way by having the build, by having basically, please, Jesus, forgive me for what I'm about to say, but having something like sub-modules, where basically the idea is each user has their own repository that contains their own content. And then one way or another, I mentioned submodules, but I wouldn't do it with submodules. But the point being, then the Zig News repo knows that it basically only has a dependency on every user's repository. And then each user can change what they put in their repository. And then Zig News fetches and builds and deploys everything. So it would be, honestly, it would be I've never seen something like this before. So it would be kind of a curious approach. Which, you know what, I really like. You would have to figure out exactly how to make the integration work, right? But the idea that every user has a repository that they control and that they can push to as much as they want, with whatever they want in it, I guess at that point, what you do lose is the ability as an admin to moderate user content. If somebody posts something that they shouldn't, I guess as the owner of the website, your only option is to nuke the entire dependency. It becomes more problematic to have more fine-grained control. But still, maybe these problems could be solved somehow. But I think it's an interesting sweet spot. Yeah, I would be curious to explore this one day. Let's see. Hi, I'm new to Zig and to programming in general. I wrote a parser and I would like for someone to look at it and give me some tips. Do you guys know if there is a community for this? Sure. I would say one good place is Zigit. Zigit.dev. So what happened is that Reddit at some point became shit. Well, actually, Reddit was becoming shit for a while now by that point. But at some point, Reddit kind of hit like critical shit mass. And all the, let's say, people active in the community / you know, people who have been around for a long time ejected themselves from, well, most of them ejected themselves from Reddit. And the Zig subreddit closed for a while. And then Reddit stole it from us because they said that you basically, if you keep the thing closed, you lose ownership of it. And they gave it to some asshole that started mismanaging it. Let's just put it like that. By the way, an asshole that was absolutely not connected with the Zig community at all. So a random guy who just got given the Zig subreddit by Reddit admins, and after that a few more things happened, and now the subreddit exists, it's open, it's owned by a member of the community, but it's not how what I would say. It's not like a very active community anymore. Like we legitimately abandoned Reddit. Some people are still there, but it's mostly people I would say that don't know what's up, or people who got banned from all the other communities. You also have some of these people there. So, point being, Reddit, not the greatest, but around the time, also Zigit came out, and it's a forum. So, this is the community that I would recommend first and foremost for this type of stuff. If you like Discord, there's also a big Zig Discord server with a help channel, and you can create a thread in the help channel and have people help you. So yeah. Okay. Let's do some typing, shall we? Oh no, you know what though? This is something funny. Talking about things not going great for Zig. Sorry, for, well, Reddit and the Zig subreddit. Also, let me go to oldreddit.com. I cannot stand the new UI. Yeah, there's this thread, which is funny. Mom, can we have, I guess, traits and interfaces? What's funny is that this is kind of imprecise complaint. It's like, well, anyway, Mom, can we have some of this stuff? No, we have this stuff at home. This stuff at home. Any type. Wow. What's funny is that this person is not exactly. It's like, okay, what do you want? Do you want like generics stuff and constraints? Do you want like runtime polymorphism? Not exactly clear, but regardless, I guess they want a tool to be more precise when doing metaprogramming, regardless of the details. What's funny is that there's this thread, and then you scroll down a little bit, and you get into full-blown like conspiracy territory. It's like, well, community won with methods inside structs, so I think one day they will won with this. Huh? Like, I don't know. This doesn't track with me, and maybe I'm missing a key piece of Zig history. I don't know, but what? Don't have time to wait, wasn't it a feature before? When? Don't have time to search sources. You know, it's like when the mathematician comes up with a theorem, and it's like, oh yeah, you might want proof. Listen, there's no space on the side of this book for proof, so just trust me, bro. So don't have time for sources. It was an opinionated thing before the community pushed it. Huh? In any case, word of advice: do not take your information from Reddit. It is not a healthy place to be in. And you decide if that should apply to only the Zig subreddit or not. I used to browse Reddit. I don't open it anymore. Honestly, it's not great. How much copy is promising for multi-platform application development? I have no idea, man. I have no idea even what copy is. If you have a link, I can take a look, but I don't know what copy is. Wasn't copy like a networking library for Python to do networking shenanigans? Zig has a discourse. Yeah, it's a community that exists. If you go to ziglang.org and then you go to join a community, you can find a list of things that exist. There's telegrams, there's multiple Discord servers, there's like international servers, there's a Korean server? I didn't know about this. Interesting. Telegram channels, Matrix, Zulip. Revolt, Slack. So, yeah, suit yourself. But personally, I think that Zigit is one of the best communities. By the way, they're all community run. So like none of those is official. Okay. This course UI sucks though. I don't know. I think it's fine. It is a little bit funky, but at least for me, it wasn't too hard to get used to it. At least enough for like my personal use cases. So no complaints from me. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on which tastes you have for forum software. I remember the good old times when, you know, back when PHP, BB, Simple Machine Forum, InVision PowerBoard, and vBulletin were a thing. I was the proudest owner of a vBulletin license, and I remember using it in the past. But it's not that time anymore. And now you get Discourse. Honestly, I personally think it's fine. Man, do you remember how wonky it was to put emojis? Well, not emojis, but like emotes in vBulletin, PHP, BB, and company. Like they had this funky tag syntax thing. I don't know. In hindsight, kind of crappy. But anyway. Yeah, BB code, right? Okay, so this is the situation that we're in right now. The situation is we are in a branch called new authors. And if we look at a div, basically the only thing that I did here was change these attributes to require you to put a $sign in front of them for them to have meaning for the templating system. So this is apparently necessary because I wanted to have for loops. And so I started with the idea of having a for keyword, but the problem is that for is used by labels and probably other elements. It's like these accessibility related stuff where you say that an element is a label or maybe something else for another element. So for as an attribute has semantic meaning for HTML. That's too bad. It means that we cannot use it for our own purposes. Then I changed it to loop. Guess what? Felix found out that actually loop, I knew this actually, I just had forgotten. Loop is a valid attribute for video elements, and that sucks. That sucks, it means that we cannot use it. And more generally, it's like, it's just an annoying example of the fact that if you don't namespace your symbols, it's fragile. It's very easy for HTML to collide. The problem with colliding, with HTML stuff colliding, is that it means that you as a user will have a legitimate reason to create a, I don't know, let's say if, and let's assume that if becomes a valid attribute one day, you will have a legitimate reason to put an if element in your HTML tags, sorry, an if attribute in your HTML tags to indicate something that has semantic meaning in the final output. And that means that for us, then at that point, it becomes hard and problematic to understand like a syntax error then inside of an if. We don't know if it's like you trying to say something legitimate for the final output or you bungled what was supposed to have meaning for Zine. So long story short, it's not a situation that you want to be in. You want to make sure that if the user is using an if attribute with some namespacing or whatever, you want to make sure that that's for you, that's for the templating system and not for some other purpose, so that you can properly report errors and not silently fail. So what I was doing here is basically namespacing them with a $sign, saying that everything that has special meaning gets a $sign. I don't know. It's an idea. I'm honestly, Not even sure what I want to do about this right now. Will the HTML parser be part of Zine? Well, the HTML parser will technically be part of Super, which is the name of the templating system. And Zine depends on Super. Which right now, it's everything in the same repository, yes. But eventually I plan to break it apart into multiple repositories. So you will have one repository called Super that will contain the HTML parser. If the HTML, whether the HTML parser should deserve its own, standalone project or not, it's something that we will see once we're done with it. Because my main goal is to solve my own problem, not to make a reusable application, a reusable solution. Although, obviously reusability is good. When will ZLS have the semantic and comp time analysis? Well, the technical answer is probably never, but not in the sense that we will never have it. In the sense that when we will have it, chances are it is not going to be in ZLS. The idea is to have the Zig compiler itself give you that type of information and basically become, if you will, the engine that then can power a language server. So ultimately, it's not exactly up to ZLS to implement this because it's a big problem. Like, it's tough to implement that correctly. You have to re-implement basically the Z compiler to a good degree. And so the plan is to have the Z compiler itself do this because it will have to do this kind of a job anyway because of incremental compilation. So we will get there. That in turn means that probably ZLS, what ZLS will do at that point would probably be a LSP bridge in the sense that the Z compiler will have this type of diagnostic information and will be able to offer it to users, but there is no plan at all to have the Z compiler speak language server protocol. The language server protocol is not great. The language server protocol has quite a few issues, starting from the fact that you're opening a TCP connection, or like usually it's not even that. Usually it's like just a file descriptor, like a normal pipe. Because it's inter-process communication normally. Although I think that it does support also remote language servers. But in any case, basic use case, it's a separate process running on your computer and communicates through standard input and standard output with the editor. And what happens there is that it speaks HTTP. It speaks, not correct HTTP. It speaks HTTP-ish JSON RPC. So you have HTTP style headers. Then you have, which include also content length. So the body is, you have to specify the HTTP content length header. Then the content is JSON RPC. It's a JSON object structured as a JSON RPC object, which is a very bad combination. Like content length and JSON, like it's a weird fucking combo. That JSON RPC, when you make an edit, contains an escaped version of the text that you're sending over. So if you added a new line, then your JSON RPC contains the /n, contains the escape version. So your editor has to escape it. Your server has to unescape it. Because JSON doesn't support unescaped strings. You have to escape them. And then you send UTF data as part of JSON, but UTF-16 calculated positions and offsets. Oh yeah, there's also that. So you can speak UTF-8. I think that some servers, some editors, some tooling. So there's through headers, you negotiate which encoding to use. And normally you want to use UTF-8. Microsoft stuff likes UTF-16, but you can avoid speaking UTF-16. Thank fucking God. That said, as Bifredel was pointing out, yes, offsets are UTF-16 are based on UTF-16. Anyway. Is there a plan to eventually warn about accidentally returning pointers to stack allocated objects? Yes. There are plans to add warnings for that. But as far as I'm aware, you should think of it as a protection for truly, how can I say, like the simplest forms of that. Because the more nuanced forms of that are problematic. And I don't know for sure, but I suspect that if you want to build a fully sound version that protects you from this, you need to basically become Rust. So I don't think we'll be able to have a waterproof version of that, but there are plans to at least stop you from the most silly versions of this. I saw yesterday that Zig 0.13 released after 1 day and released 0.12.1. Why is that? Well, because the idea is that the dot version backports bug fixes to 0.12, while 0.13 contains breaking changes. So the idea is you're on 0.12, but you're affected by some bug. I think there was also a mitigation for a crypto security thing, among other things, that was added by Frank in these release cycles. And so it makes sense to backport that to 0.12. Right, that's a good point. Also, other people are pointing out that among the breaking changes, there's also a dependency on a different version of LLVM. So, but long story short, the point is, it's a backport of bug fixes. That's the idea. And I know that usually you think, oh, there's going to be 12, then 12.1, and then 13. And sure, that's how it usually happens. But not always. You will find that there's also plenty of other projects that backport bug fixes after the fact. And ultimately, it boils down, like, if you think about it, like the key difference, like the backporting bugs, it's not always worth it. You could even argue that for a project like Zig, it's like you're being really nice by doing that, because given the nature of Zig as a V0 point something project, you could assume that people should just upgrade to 0.13. But still, backporting helps people update, deal with breaking changes, at their pace, but without precluding them access to bug fixes in the meantime. Hello, Quint. Okay, let's do some writing. So here's what I'm gonna do. I don't feel like I'm ready to merge this. I would like to think about this change a little bit more. So here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to check out, I would actually not mind to create a branch for the work that I'm about to do based on this branch. But I feel like the two things can be separated still. So I'm going to switch to, well, let me see git status. I guess I should commit, right? And then git switch main, switching back to main, and then git checkout. There should be HTML parser. So we are in the HTML parser branch. By the way, we just made all these changes bad in our ZNSSG website. Like everything, well, except this one that's just using a local checkout of Zine. All these other ones are now bad, right? Because now this attribute, not reverted, but we like stashed this change in a branch. So this is not active anymore. Now we have to decide what to do here. We could maybe stash these things also in another branch, honestly, and call it a day. So let's do this. You check out. We can call this also new authors. So we had layouts. Commit. Switch back to main. Yeah. Switch back to main. We keep the modified zone file because that's the one that contains this change, which is good. We need to add .zcache to git ignore. Okay. Next, we can now start working on our stuff in our Zine repository. We're not gonna touch this is the repository that contains the Zine SHU website, which is also a website that gets built using Zine. So it's a good test project. But we are not gonna touch it for a while. I mean, I wanted to do this cleanup work, but we're probably go back to it in a while because we have a lot of parser work to do. So let's take a look at what's in super. Well, in super there's a fuck ton of cache stuff. Okay, so rm-rf z cache in here. Try again. Okay, without the cache, much more manageable. So we have stream.me.md. What? I don't even remember what the file is there for. But in any case, we have a main file. We have an interpreter. We have something that finds errors. Super 3 right now is the AST for our so the way this works right now is this. What was I using to draw Florian? So the way it works is that we use 3-seater to produce an AST, and then this is the HTML AST. What a work of art. This is the HTML AST, and then we give it to Super 3 and produce a Super AST. And the Super AST, it's another AST that instead of usually you have the AST, I guess, that has a bunch of nodes that in one way or another point to tokens. In our case, our AST, our Super AST, has nodes that contain references to HTML AST nodes. So it's slightly more high level. I don't see a reason to change this right now. I guess we could, in theory, build one AST that does everything, but frankly, I don't think there's a lot to gain necessarily, or rather, it's not something that I care about right now. Maybe you could argue that there are performance wins there, and so that means that it's totally work that is might be interesting in the future. But right now, I would say we don't touch this. Well, we'll have to touch it so that right now this expects to depend on 3-seater definitions. We're gonna need to basically swap this out for our own. No, well, I guess we can do this. We're gonna swap this out for our own implementation. So it's not gonna be 3-seater anymore. And then that means that we need to change a bunch of references, types. Maybe our types will be very close to what 3-seater does. Maybe they won't. Maybe won't. So that's the idea. The reason why I'm doing this, so what are the reasons to have my own parser and not just 3-seater? And the answer is this parser needs to deal with broken HTML, and it needs to be able to give diagnostics that we like. 3-seater is not good at giving good diagnostics. If you look at what people use 3-seater for, it's syntax highlighting, but they tend to not use it as a parser for LSPs. And our goal is to basically have an LSP grade support for this stuff. Now, here's where things start becoming a little bit complicated, because a full-fledged LSP valid parser, it's a bit of a weird beast. And I'm not sure that the parser that I'm going to write here right now is going to be LSP valid. This is actually a situation that I was in with my JSON replacement language, because I ended up writing a parser that we use, but it's not the parser used by the LSP. I'm talking about Ziggy. So this is like a JSON replacement that I came up with. I still want to change the syntax a little bit. This is not like done work, but there was like a serious push on tooling, and I also got some help. And in the end, I have one parser made by me that is used by normal tooling, and then there's a second parser made by Two-Step that instead is used by the LSP. So long story short, it is complicated, this parser stuff, and honestly, I came out of this work learning that, yeah, one parser is not enough. If you're serious about tuning, you'll need 2, maybe 3 parsers, no joke. Or I don't know, I guess you could have one parser that, you know, one implementation, but then that somehow is able to accommodate all 3 use cases. But you have at least 3 significantly different use cases. One is the LSP parser, one is a more, let's say, the reference parser. Another one could be a type-driven parser, like a parser that doesn't parse into an AST, but parses into a concrete data structure. Like whenever you use a JSON parser and you give a struct type to the JSON parser, and you expect the JSON parser to parse its contents into that struct, that's what I'm talking about. And you could do this by going through an AST, but you don't have to. You can actually skip the AST in that case. And in any case, it's complicated. But yeah, so I'm gonna start working on, let's say, a basic parser. We'll see where we go with that. The main goal for now, though, I guess the starting goal, the sub goal, is not to land on a LSP grade parser right away, but to land on a parser that can give reasonable diagnostic messages, and then we work from there. Is there a link to the repo? I'm very interested in parsers and still working my way into Zig. Should be a good reference. So Quint, take a look at ziggy-lang.io. There's a link to the code. And the other thing is zine-ssg.io. That's the static site generator, and you can take a look at the code. I would say that if you're interested in parsers, take a look at Ziggy first. Ziggy has the more serious parser work. That said, be aware, this is my first time doing this stuff, so I would not count myself as a authority when it comes to these things at all. Absolutely at all. If I have to be honest, in university, I did some language work, but you know, the usual boring stuff with like Yak and I forget the name of the other thing, but like we basically like parser generators that consume grammars, and I never loved that. Personally, I never did my own project where I came up with my own programming language. I never was super into this stuff. I am doing this work right now because I just want my tuning to be better. I write static websites. I want my templating language to not suck. So in a sense, I don't know. Too bad I love it. Good for you. Good for you. I would say it's definitely not bad practice. It is good practice. But, well, my point is, I just wanted to make sure you knew about the limits of the stuff that I'm doing. Like, I think there are some reasonably interesting ideas in here, but I am not a, you know, genius when it comes to this stuff. That's it. Okay, so basically, right now we have, here's what we have in here. We have sitter.zig that contains bindings to 3-sitter and creates a bunch of 3-sitter and basically gives you access to a 3-sitter AST. And we want to get rid of this. So in terms of like which files basically we're replacing sitter.zig with well, more than one file, because we're gonna need a tokenizer, we're gonna need a parser at the very least. So let's start doing that. So mkdir source/html touch source/html tokenizer. We probably want uppercase T. You know what? Let's do this. Let's take inspiration from Ziggy. So Ziggy has an uppercase tokenizer. So we have the top level definition that is a struct itself. So that's the tokenizer. So let's do the same also here. And then for the AST, what did we end up doing? So we have parser here. We have recover AST and we have resilient parser. We were not very consistent with the naming of this stuff. So the resilient parser, by the way, is an implementation that I know that's the 2-step one. I made recover AST, I believe. Yeah. These two are two competing implementations of an LSP parser. And the core point of an LSP parser is that it doesn't give up on error. It's able to continue somehow. And you can have different strategies. Recover AST tries to maintain a unexpected structure of the AST and kind of throws away stuff that it doesn't like, or says that something is missing when it can't find it, and then moves over, assuming that then what's after is another definition. So it's a JSON style thing, right? So it assumes, for example, that if you're inside a struct, everything is structured as key value pairs, and so it can say, well, the key is missing, but this thing seems like a valid value, potentially valid value, so we'll assume that this thing is a value. Or the key is there, but the value is missing. We find a comma right away, so we say, well, the value is missing, but then after that, there's going to be another key value pair. Stuff like that. Yeah, in any case. Let's do the tokenizer stuff. No, I want the super source HTML tokenizer. Okay, I pasted the Ziggy implementation, but we're gonna have to obviously make changes to it. So, what are the tokens in our case? Goddamn HTML. There's gonna be a bunch. So, okay, we keep invalid. We keep EOF. We keep comment. I think everything else has to be different. Actually, is comment a token in our case? Huh. Actually, no, a comment cannot be a token, right? Because they're not just line based, so it's more complicated, man. You know what? We could take a look at what 3-seater has. So they got tag start name. Well, this is a full grammar, not a tokenizer. So there's more than just that. But yeah, so they have. Oh, they have. Wait, do they? Wait, this does not include the dash dash. Oh, because you have doc type. Oh right. Oh god. HTML doc type. No, W2 schools. Come on, Google. You should know better. Oh, you have the doc type thing. Okay. Well, invalid, comment, EOF. So I guess we have like opening tag. Start tag, end tag. It's confusing though, because a start tag in the AST, a start tag is the entire thing. No, I think it shouldn't be a tag. No. That's a bad idea. Wait, this is AST stuff. This is not tokenizer stuff. God damn it. I guess we have we can call it like this: GT greater than, lower than. Then what else do we have? So the GT bang was a separate thing. Do we have a GT bang thing? Let's do doc type token. And then we have the GT dash dash. Well, GT bang dash dash. GT bang. Actually, it's not GT bang, right? It's LT bang. To be fair. Okay, comment start, comment end. Equal sign. We have the double quote. I don't think I don't remember. Can you use both single quote and double quote to quote attribute values in HTML? I believe you can. Yeah. Okay, so quote double. Slash. Identifier. Yeah. Yeah, for attribute names and tag names. I believe they kind of support more or less the same type of stuff. Also, we need, I think, text. I think we should treat text as... Actually, I'm not sure. Should we treat text as one token or should we not? As in, you know, you have some random text in the body of an element, like foo space bar. Should it be foo is one token, bar is another token, or do we... Yeah, no, we do need to tokenize them, right? Because we don't care about white space. Although that isn't even that interesting. We do care about white space, though, inside of pre-tags. So for pre-tags, we actually care about even new lines, but that is not necessarily something that the tokenizer has to worry about. Oh, this thing. Like, should we give an tag name to this thing? I'm not sure. We have the slash and we have the greater than. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Let's have text. Let's just call it text. For bodies, and then we can do name, I guess. We should also recognize HTML entities. So the ampersand stuff. God damn it. This is so annoying. So we need the ampersand, the pound sign, and the semicolon. Or we tokenize these guys as an entity. Period. Like entity. Let's go with entity for now. Okay. This might be a mistake because you might be allowed to put a space between the bang and the dock type, so we might need to change this. Annoying, but for now, let's assume that it's fine. Hey Johnny, oh, you got your own tokenizer. Come and start. Let's take a look at what you did in there. But you know, I like to walk my own path. Dock type cannot have a space? Oh, interesting. So let's see what you got in there. Docking is a union, dock type start tag, end tag, start tag self closed. Did you consider the entire tag a token? Parse error. Oh man, we have to think about the full HTML parser state machine. Oh god. Yeah, we'll get there. We already have it. Maybe we should move these up here. This plan actually finds a state machine for you. Oh, that's nice. Okay, we have our location definition and selection, position, get selection. Yeah, this is all like fine. Unquote. Unescape. Oh, this is different. You know what? Let's put a nice compiler in there in case we need this. So I guess what unescape should do is, well, here's the thing. So attribute values, I believe, do not have any form of escaping available to you other than decoding HTML entities. So for example, if you have something like this, like in HTML you have like, I don't know, foo, and then you have bar equals say you want to do something like this, right, where you want to quote something inside of these quotes, you can't, and you cannot escape them. Escaping doesn't work. You cannot double them. That would be like a CSS style thing, I believe, so that doesn't work either. The only thing you can do is the ampersand something, like you basically have to turn it into an HTML entity. There's no other way. So long story short, unescape basically means unescaping HTML entities, which we don't have implemented right now. And it is indeed annoying. In any case, we'll think about it later. In my opinion, the tokenizer shouldn't do any allocation or unescaping. Well, technically it's not the tokenizer doing it, right? If you look at where this stuff is placed, it's the location. So the way I was using this stuff, by the way, this is code that was copy pasted from the Ziggy parser. So this is what I was doing with Ziggy. What I was doing, in long story short, was that I was moving around. I wasn't moving around tokens much, but I was very often, well, I was dealing mostly in these lock structs, and I placed the unquoting, unescaping, and similar functionality inside the lock, so that you would grab the location of a token or like a segment, a section of something, whatever, and then you would do .unescape. I don't know, debatable, but it seemed fine in my usage. Okay, so we need to have a state for the tokenizer. Does it actually have a state for the tokenizer itself? Tokenization, copy link. Let's go. Implementations must act as if they use the following state machine to tokenize HTML. The state machine must start in the data state. Most states consume a single character, which may have various side effects, and either switches the state machine to a new state to reconsume the current input character, or switches it to a new state to consume the next character, or stays in the same state to consume the next character. These states have more complicated behavior and can consume some states. Have more complicated behavior and can consume several characters before switching to another state. In some cases, the tokenizer state is also changed by the tree construction stage. Okay. The tokenizer state is changed by the tree construction stage. Okay. When a state says to reconsume a matched character in a specified state, that means to switch to that state. But when it attempts to consume the next input character, provided with the current input character instead. The exact behavior of certain states depends on the insertion mode and the stack of open elements. Certain states also use a temporary buffer to track progress. So the tokenizer cares about the stack of open elements. I was able to simplify it a bit. I only needed a stack of one single character. Probably because text is not allowed outside the body or whatever. But even if that's the case, you don't have to worry about this stuff as a tokenizer, right? The tokenizer tokenizes some text outside the body, and then the parser, the AST constructor, decides that, wait, that is not a well-formed AST that I'm building. So the output of the tokenization step is a series of 0 or more of the following tokens: doc type, start tag, end tag, comment, character, end of file. Doc type tokens have a name, a public identifier, a system identifier, and a force quirks flag. When a doc type token is created, its name, public identifier, and system identifier must be marked as missing, which is a distinct state from the empty string. And the force quirks flag must be set to off. Its other state is on. Start and end tag tokens have a tag name, a self-closing flag, and a bro, but like it. This is okay. Am I going insane? Isn't this parsing? Why is this considered tokenization? Each of which has a name and a value. When a start or end tag token is created, its self-closing flag must be unset. Its other state is that it be set. How is that different from on-off? How is that different from... Why can't you say it's a boolean? And its attributes list must be empty, which is... Its other state is that the list is not empty. Spoilers. Comment and character tokens have data. When a token is emitted, it must immediately be handled by the 3 construction stage. The 3 construction stage can affect the state of the tokenization stage and can insert additional characters into the stream. What? For example, what? 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 I would say that is somebody's opinionated, honestly, weirdly opinionated way on how to implement this. For example, the script element can result in scripts executing and using the dynamic markup insertion APIs to insert characters into the stream being tokenized. So we are also executing JavaScript as we are tokenizing. But I don't know. It's like, I guess from maybe a certain practical perspective, some of these make sense. I just feel like I don't mean to say that everything should be done, in a pure way, just the way they teach you in university. I really do not have that perspective, but I just find this weird, and I don't see what you have to gain by not properly separating these sections. It's to support the right in inline scripts. Yeah, I can see that. It's just, well, I guess what they're telling you is that as soon as you, okay, if you're a browser, by the way, there's also an assumption here, right? That you're a fucking browser. But like, if I'm not a browser, I'm not running the stupid script tag. So there's another implication here. Creating a token and emitting it are distinct actions. Note: it is possible for a token to be created but implicitly abandoned, never emitted. If the file ends unexpectedly while parsing the characters that are being parsed into a start tag token. For example, if the file ends unexpectedly while processing the characters that are being parsed into a start tag token. So you're parsing a start tag token, and at some point the thing dies, and you drop the token. When a start tag is emitted with its self-closing flag set, if the flag is not acknowledged when it is processed by the tree construction state, that is a non-void HTML element start tag with trailing solidus parse error. Oh god. The spec includes things that I don't think the tokenizer should do, so I left those parts out of my tokenizer and put them into the parser analyzer order stages. Okay. I don't know. Man. Okay. Let's see. JG on YouTube is saying the tree constructor stage takes one token at a time. For some tokens, they have to be acknowledged. If they aren't, then the tokenizer might change state. I know it's crazy. Web specs are a madhouse. CSS2 is not the same as CSS space 2. What? What? Do you have a link to explain what is CSS no space 2, or what is CSS space 2? What? So this is okay. I think I guess I understand some of it. So sure, there are things here that are suggested with the implicit assumption that you're building something like a web browser that like if you have a JavaScript script that modifies your HTML stuff and does document of write, then you need to acknowledge it sooner or later. And in fact, the semantics are that the thing interprets the script as soon as it finds it, right? So it does make sense to run it as soon as you find it, and then do something about the side effects that it might have introduced. By the way, this points out that this talks about like it can insert additional characters into the stream. This is interesting because saying that this is a stream kind of makes you imply that you cannot change the previous parts of the parts of the stream that you have consumed, but actually the JavaScript could totally try to write in the area that you have already tokenized. So I think that really handling this is more complicated, but in any case, it does make sense. But at the same time, yeah, this whole thing is weird. That said, sorry, here's what I wanted to say. It does make sense for them to give you, to tell you how to do things, at least in a way such that behavior with ambiguous or malformed stuff is consistent across implementations. You do not want things to fail differently, I guess, as much as you can. So maybe telling people how to do this stuff is not that wrong. In any case, it's not something that we have to concern ourselves with in our specific use case. So weird. So weird. Before each step of the tokenizer, the user agent must first check the parser pose flag. If it is true, then the tokenizer must abort the processing of any nested invocations of the tokenizer, yielding control back to the caller. The tokenizer state machine consists of the states defined in the following subsections. Data state, sorry. Consume the next input character. Find an ampersand. Set the return state to the data state, switch to the character reference state. Less than sign, switch to the tag open state. Null. This is an expected character parse error. Emit the current input character as a character token. EOF. Anything else? Emit the current input character as a character token. RC data state. Oh god, RC data. Raw text state, script data state, plain text state, tag open state, exclamation mark, markup, declaration open state, solidus. Solidus? Snake! Okay. Switch to the end tag open state, ASCII alpha. Create a new start tag token. Set its tag name to the empty string. Reconsume in the tag name state. I find this really weird. Like, okay, now that I think about it, if we were to do this, like, now that I think about it, also my own thing where I have like this distinction between text and name. In a tokenizer, you don't really have a distinction between text and name. They're the same thing in a sense, and then you decide which is which based on at the parser level. So I was already getting memed by myself. It's more complicated and needs to be simplified. Yeah. Let me take a look again at your stuff. What did you use this for? HTML, CSS renderer. Sorry, now I'm curious. Oh, you know what? I think I saw it. You had a demo that showed, I think, was it you who had this demo that showed some HTML being rendered in an HTML page, but it wasn't being rendered by the browser? It was rendered by you. That was it, right? Yeah. Huh. So, Johnny, I have one last question for you. Do you think that this is really necessary and then I am going insane if instead I attempt first a more traditional normal tokenizer thing that tokenizes, normal tokens, and then I have an AST, like a parser, do some of this work instead of intermingling it with the tokenizer? I guess having the tokenizer be guided a little bit, having some state is good. I can see it, I guess. But man, I think it's a valid approach, but I think a better approach is you copy paste my tokenizer and start with that. Unexpected null character. Invalid first character of tag name. You know the tokenizer for now is just mine. Let's see where that leads. Okay. Next to deferred. I'm confused about the difference between. Oh, next to is not. It's not public. Okay, I see. You just call next. Next to is private stuff. Cool. So that's it. Init and next. You were saying. Okay. Token says doc type, start tag, end tag, start limit. Okay. Start tag self-closed. Attribute name row, value row, process value, dot 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 somehow. Comment. I'm curious, why is start tag self-closed a usize, not a span? I guess it's because I guess this is just the self-closing tag. And it has a statically known length. Doc type, name row, force quirks. Public ID, system ID. Yeah, I have no idea what the fuck this is. Process name row by replacing uppercase ASCII alpha with lowercase. Okay, let's say that we do have a tokenizer. Let's see what we do next. Hello, it's right. Hello, hello. Enjoy your lecture, Dr. and see you soon. Okay, so let's say that we do have a tokenizer. Also, we have some errors. Wait, how do I go to diagnostic? It's the square bracket thing. Go to diagnostic. Pointer to int. Oh man. Uh-oh. Let's see how annoying Zig is going to be with these about these things. Also, you know what? I know, because it you're saving it as a U size. Hmm. So what I'm thinking is that maybe some of this stuff can actually be normal pointer math, because pointers have gained pointer math. Maybe this wasn't true when you wrote this at the time. Like, I believe the self dot pointer plus len can be done now. Although I don't know if you can do greater than. I don't know if you can do comparisons on, like, numeric comparisons on pointers like this. But I think, for example, this should be fine. I think. Maybe. But that means the tag.open needs to be a pointer, not a U size. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see what Zig has to say. It's nice to have integers and makes it serializable. Yeah, I would also consider the idea of turning those U sizes to your 32s at some point and say that, yeah, Zine supports HTML files up to 4 gigabytes. Too bad. Okay, so parser, huh? Oh, you know what? Let's write some tests for this guy, so we can try it out. Basics. I don't remember how some well-formed thing, but in any case, I don't know. I think you can do this. You know what? Let's just see what happens. So we need to create a new HTML tokenizer. Call init on it. Is assert equals assert equal? I don't remember. It doesn't exist. Assert. Testing. Does it not? Does this stuff not exist anymore? I think it's out of doc time. Oh, right. It's not assert in testing. Expect this. Expect that. Right. Well, we'll see what we expect because I don't know. And then tokenizer dot next, and then gives us an error and an optional token. So we try. But then it could be optional. So, well, I guess you know what? Let's get this thing to complain and see what happens. Expected pointer tokenizer found const tokenizer. Fair. Inputable types bool and optional tokenizer token. Yeah. What other expect functions do we have? Well, we can do this. We can expect. Yeah. Okay, so. I guess we're going to do this. Yeah, that's how it feels to write an HTML parser. One test passed. Okay. Let's print this token. std.debug.print. Can we see the token? Tokenizer.token doc type force quirks true, name row null. Okay, how's normally an HTML5? How's an HTML5 page normally structured? God damn it, all this garbage. And obviously these guys, it's not like they want to give up that information so easily, right? It should say doc type HTML. In short, easy to remember and backwards compatible. So doc type HTML. Okay, cool. Let's go do that. Okay, let's see. How does that look like? Name row is a span. Force quirks is false. Interesting. Haven't been here long. Is there a reason for HTML parser? Part of a larger project? Oh yes. This is work that I'm doing for my static site generator. Okay, I'll tell you briefly the story. So I'm working on a static site generator written in Zig. It's a bit of a weird project because there's a few interesting decisions behind it. I've used JavaScript based static site generators in the past. They are extremely slow. I've used Hugo, which I did like more recently. Hugo is like a Go static site generator. Also, what's a static site generator? As a baseline, think of it as something like a good way of rendering your personal blog. You have you want to write your blog posts in Markdown. You want to basically style them and output them as HTML. That's what the static site generator gives you at its core. So Hugo is much faster. To be clear, I had like my personal blog has not my GitHub profile, but my actual personal blog has what? I don't know, like a dozen blog posts. This thing would take more than 2 minutes to build using the original JavaScript framework that I had on a decent computer. More than decent. It was insane. It was stupid slow. I was using Gatsby to be precise, and I would expect more modern static site generators that came out after Gatsby to be more focused on performance. Gatsby also had like freaking GraphQL everywhere. It was doing GraphQL internally to communicate across, I don't know, like components. It was stupid in many ways. But in any case, so I switched to Hugo. Hugo, much better in many ways. Some things still I don't like about it. But some things I wish were different, and some things I wish were better. So some things are, done in a way that I don't like, but I think they're reasonable. Some other things are, I think, just should be better. More specifically, one thing that I wish would be better is that I wish the static site generator would give you build errors for malformed HTML instead of ignoring it. The problem is that the templating languages used by these systems tends to not give you that info, or rather the JavaScript ones use JSX normally, and JSX, by being a language that by being something that allows you to slot HTML syntax inside of a JSON file, it has to parse correctly, otherwise the thing will not be able to translate it to transpile it to a pure JSON file, because that's what happens. You write the in JSX, you write down HTML flights and plane tickets. What? No. In JSX, you write HTML inside of a JSON file, but then this call, this thing will be translated by the preprocessor into a call of the H1 class defined somewhere. So this all gets desugared at some point. Yeah, that's what happens, right? You write this, and then this becomes React create element H1 pass down this thing. So it's all syntax sugar. In this case, you cannot really write malformed HTML because, well, turns out it looked like HTML, but you weren't writing HTML actually in the first place. You were writing something that get preprocessed by by JavaScript. In any case, but with other systems, they tend to use instead a different templating system that is used by a ton of people. And it's this thing with curly braces. And I fucking hate it. I hate it because it's ugly, it breaks syntax highlighting, it breaks navigation, it's unclear what this should be doing in terms of indentation. The syntax, what you put inside the curlies is bad. And this allows you to create the weirdest, most malformed things that you could think of. Like, it allows you to do things like this. And by the way, I showed you the Hugo one, but there's also Jinja used by Django, there's handlebars, there's mustache. They're all the same from that perspective. They are a language that exists above the HTML, and they can be used with things that aren't HTML if you want. So they're not tied to HTML too much. They do have some connections, but they are not really tied too much. So it allows you to do stuff like this, like what's going on here. Actually, this one is ultimately a somewhat tame example. You can do much worse things. Point being, I wanted a templating language that actually did things in a better way. And so on the front page, I show you, right? Here, for example, you have a duplicated attribute. And I want the thing to know that you put a duplicated attribute. And for this to work correctly and make sense, what I did was create a templating language where basically the templating language is valid HTML. It contains special tags that have meaning for the templating language, but they exist only in the context of well-formed HTML. So I started by using a 3-seater HTML parser, and I would consume the 3-seater AST to then interpret these templates. And then have the templates. There's like templating inheritance as usual, like you have the base template and then it gets extended, blah, blah, blah. And inside the templates, you have stuff like, where is it? Logic, right? You have like if. So for example, here the if gets analyzed, gets interpreted, and if the condition turns out to be false, then the div element won't have the body rendered or not. And you have loop for looping, etc., etc. So what's the problem? I could keep using 3-seater, but there are two issues. One is that 3-seater, or rather, it's like one general issue, the issue of diagnostics. 3-seater is good at many things, but it is not good at giving you diagnostics in a way that makes sense. So people would write malformed HTML, and the type of error that they would get out of the parsing process would be, in my opinion, suboptimal. Related to that, although slightly different, there's the problem that actually this is valid HTML according to the spec. Like, you don't have to close the H1 tag, and so if you open another one, this will implicitly close this H1, and so this is okay. But I don't want this to be okay. This static site generator is based on the assumption that you are handwriting that HTML, and if you write something like this, you have totally forgotten the slash in the closing tag. You have not been trying to open two HTML things one after H1 things one after the other, with the second one being empty on top of everything. So this is the idea behind Zine, and this is already implemented, by the way, and it will give you, like, you try to build a website that contains this stuff, this mistake in a template, in an HTML template, and it will tell you, dude, there's a missing element. But this is these and some other errors are they're a little bit funky. They're a little bit funky in the way things end up being with three-seater. So I want to get rid of three-seater and build my own tooling. The way this happened was that, like, in terms of like my work process, I started working on this templating stuff, and I've implemented. I have a virtual machine that interprets the template and does all the reasoning, and then produces the final templated output. But after that, I wanted to. A static site generator also has to worry about front matter. The front matter is what goes on top of markdown files and contains like stuff like the page title and the publishing date, etc. And I didn't want to use JSON, I didn't want to use YAML, I didn't want to use any of the existing ones, so I made my own. It's like a JSON replacement language called Ziggy. What was interesting about Ziggy is that with Ziggy, given that it was, well, it's a JSON replacement, so as a language it's very simple. I spent more effort in tooling. And so I worked harder on having an LSP, an auto-formatter, schema validator, format conversion. And so that taught me how bad three-seater is. Oh, by the way, I also made a three-seater grammar for this guy so that I could get syntax highlighting, right? Like the syntax highlighting that you see here is thanks to three-seater. But I realized as I was doing this that three-seater is nice for syntax highlighting, but it is not nice for powering the LSP, unfortunately. So now I'm basically circling back to the main templating language and trying to do this work for the templating language. So have full control over the entire processing, I guess, and ideally get better diagnostic errors. Unfortunately, I've seen people. I've seen when Togglebit tried this tool a while ago. He was purposely trying to see how, if the errors messages would like guide him towards the light, and he got into some pretty weird states, as in like three-seater was erroring out in very weird ways, and that was, or not erroring out, and that was having bad side effects on the templating virtual machine. So that's why I want to do everything myself. So now there's a problem, because I can do expect equal, but can expect equal work on a struct? It's gonna call expect equal on every field. What if it's a string? Pointer slice. Yeah, this guy doesn't do expect equal strings, unfortunately. Although, to be fair, we don't have strings in there, right? We have, I think we only have indices, so that should work, right? Yeah, yep, yeah, you're right. Okay, so expect equal. I'm actually not sure what was it saying here. starts at 10, ends at 14. Oh, right. This contains HTML. Right. This is the name. Okay. Okay, let's see. Do you like this? It does. Okay, you know what? It's fine. I think I'm happy with this. Let me think. Do I want to do like a second one? Doc type. You know what? Let's complete this test so that we can, just as a way of seeing what the tokenizer returns, I guess. So we have then, well, let's watch it fail. Especially doc type found star tag. I should probably have kept that print. So it's a star tag span 16 to 20. So this is the star tag. It's inside these things. Okay. Okay. Then let's see what the hello looks like now then. Oh, you know what? Let's change this to hello space world. So what do we get? Oh no, we're getting the char tokens. We are getting the char tokens. You have a comment about the char token? To do, maybe combine multiple UTF-8 encoded chars in a single string. Ooh. Right, there's also UTF-8 encoding. Well, actually, you're not even... To be fair, you're actually not even guaranteed that this stuff should be interpreted as UTF-8. I would say in 2024, it's a reasonable assumption. But that's actually not even the default of browsers. If you have UTF-8, if you have like a UTF-8 thing in your HTML, it will be like as in the raw UTF-8 bytes, not the HTML entity escaped thing. It will actually be misrendered because it does not assume that out of the box. To have UTF-8 encoding, you have to request it with a meta thing. You need this, you need meta char set UTF-8. If you don't have meta chars at UTF-8, the browser will not interpret it as UTF-8. And like, I guess the point is not the browser's. It's not the browser's fault. The browser is doing what the spec says. And I think the spec says that... What's the default encoding? Yeah, good fucking question. I have no idea. HTML default encoding. You know who we should ask this to? We should ask maybe ChatGPT. Let's see. For some reason, the plain text character dash on the HTML side is being displayed as blop. The only thing I can think of would be the character encoding. My guess is that it isn't UTF-8. Is there an explanation? Is the char set being specified? The default is Unicode. What the fuck does that even mean? Okay, this is driving me crazy. Unicode is not an encoding. Unicode is like, it's an alphabet. UTF-8 is an encoding. UTF-16 is an encoding. UTF-32 it's an encoding. All of these are encodings of the same like alphabet. Alphabet is like list of symbols, whatever. But Unicode is not an encoding. That's why you say UTF-8. That's why you say all the other ones. Many sources, one encoding. If the box says dangerous, do not open, don't peek inside the box. What? Okay. Why? What is this thing on the W3C website? A long web time ago, there was a very serious discussion to try and determine a web resource was supposed to know its encoding best, or whether the web server should be the authoritative resource. In the resource camp, some were pushing the rather logical argument that a specific document surely knew best about its own metadata, that a misconfigured configured web server. Okay. That's a very debatable position. Like that's an extremely debatable answer, because the document might know best, fine, except that the document, to communicate to somebody else what its encoding is, it has to do that via some kind of encoding. And in fact, if you think about it, it's kind of dumb, right? That you declare that you're UTF-8 at this point, because this can only work, like this cannot work with an encoding. Like if this were UTF-32, right? If the bytes that get here, if they're UTF-32 encoded, and you only say UTF-32 here in plain text on top of everything. Oh my god. What is going on here? Who cares if the server thinks that all HTML document it serves are ISO 8859-1, when I, as the document author, know full well that I'm authoring this particular resource as UTF-8? Okay, it's fine. It makes total sense. In the other hand, in the other camp, we have two killer arguments. The first, and perhaps the simplest argument, was, what's the point of having user agents sniff garbage in hope to find content, and perhaps a character encoding declaration, when the transport protocol has a way of declaring it? This is the basis for the authoritative metadata principle. The second killer argument was transcoding. A lot of proxies, they said, transform the content they proxy, sometimes from a character encoding to another. So even though a document might say I'm encoded in ISO 2022 JP, the proxy could be able to say, actually, trust me, the content I'm delivering you is in UTF-8. Which I guess is kind of fair to some degree. I still don't understand. Like, this is such a convoluted way of expressing the core point. Like, the core point is neither of these. The core point is that if you write UTF-32 at some point in the document, you've already been reading some fucking bytes, and you already have to have agreed on some default encoding or something. I don't know, man. Okay, in the end, the apparent consensus was the server knows best camp had the sound architectural arguments behind them. which is neither of these, but fine. So for everything on the web served via the HTTP protocol, HTTP has precedence over any other method in determining the encoding of resources. Unlabeled boxes can be full of treasures or full of trouble. Man, these whimsical titles, god damn it, dude. Old school HTML introduced a specific meta tag for the declaration in the encoding within the document. Over the years, we have seen that this method was plagued by two serious issues. Its syntax, nobody seems to get it right. The meta elements have to be within the head document, but there is no guarantee that it will be anywhere near the top of the document. The head of a document can have lots of other metadata, title, description, script, style sheets before declaring the encoding. This means a lot of sniffing and pseudo parsing of undecoded garbage. In some cases, it can have dreadful consequences. XML, on the other hand, are a way of declared blah blah blah. The recipe. What is this blog post? In the end, it hasn't said anything useful, man. I like all these people hide. I don't get it. Oh man, it's okay. I am never ever opening a W3C thing again. They are clearly not the authoritative source about anything. You know what? I'll trust W3C schools over them at this point. It certainly seems. I use the default that Eclipse for PHP provides with and face no problems. Doc type HTML, public. W3C DTD HTML 401 transitional EN. Jesus Christ. Meta HTTP with content type content. Okay, so this is the meta tag that I was talking about. Except, yes, ISO something. So, long story short, none of these guys has the answer. Does doctype HTML make the encoding definition obsolete? No, I've seen that get fucked up if you don't include this. You are right, the default character encoding in HTML5 is UTF-8, but if an HTML5 web page uses a different character set than UTF-8, it should be specified like a tag like this. I don't think this is true. I do not think this is true because I have seen it firsthand. Like recently, I've seen recently my stuff not work without the meta char set tag. And I wasn't doing anything weird. I don't remember. You know what it was? It was dots. Now I remember. I think we can actually test it live, maybe even. Okay, you see these dots? I believe that these dots don't work correctly without... Uh-oh, I don't see the UTF-8 stuff here. Okay, let me try again. Where did I see this? Where did I do this? It was a Hugo. It wasn't a Hugo website. It was a Zine website. I did it on. I experienced this on one of my own websites when I was doing stuff with Zine. Oh, I think it's Zine SSG, right? That has dots as well. Yes. They still display correctly. Oh. Let's try localhost instead. Okay, this is the localhost version. Base. layouts. I don't know how I call this stuff. Templates base. So this has the dots. Like, look at this. Removing that thing got this messed up. Now I get it what's happening. And now I understand what the difference is. The deployed version is from a web server that probably sends over HTTP that it's a UTF-8 encoded content. While this development web server doesn't probably say even anything about the encoding, and so the web browser doesn't assume any encoding. No, or rather, doesn't assume UTF-8, it defaults to something else. Let's see, it's here in the spec, it's bonkers, it scans the raw bytes and has a concept of encoding confidence, and it can change in the middle of parsing. Right, because that's what you have to do, right? If the thing declares its own encoding inside of itself. There's no other solution. And, or rather, you could argue how much of a good solution that thing is, but yeah. I do feel like I have to add UTF-8 meta set to pages. Yeah, like here you're seeing the problem. The problem is here it's very clear. Like I put it back and it fixes itself. Because this web server here, it's not when you look at network. When you look at the network, I think I have community headers, request, blah blah, response. Well, not show me the response headers. Yeah, it only says connection, content length, content type. If instead we take a look at what's happening here on the deploy thing, headers, request, response. The response, what does it say? Max age, date, e tag expires, vary via varnish, cache hit. Oh, interesting. None of these headers says anything about the encoding. I'm not sure what vary except encoding does, but this is interesting. So this does not seem to be saying anything about that. Is this a Chrome versus Safari thing? At this point, I guess I could test this like this, right? No, it keeps it. Although, you know what, the fact that it keeps it doesn't, I don't know, maybe it's just that nuking that element doesn't re-trigger a thing, so that might be the case. Like, let's try this here. Yeah, it doesn't, removing it at runtime doesn't do anything. It doesn't cause it to reconsider what the encoding should be. So, no, you need the tag. And I don't know, man. What a mess. What a mess. Could it be that HTTP 2.3 defaults to UTF-8? While HTTP 1 uses US ASCII? Whew. I do not know. But we did test successfully now that removing the element at runtime, so like nuking the DOM element of the meta tag, doesn't do anything. It has to be missing from the original page load for it to do something, so we are unable to test. But the headers did not say anything. Honestly, I would not expect HTTP to make statements about encoding of, because if you think about it, it would have to, if that were the case, it means that the HTTP spec makes statements about the expected encoding of a specific meme type, right? Of HTML files, because obviously it won't assume, I don't know, UTF-8 encoding of images or binary files. So it would have to specify that change by referencing a specific type of meme content, M-I-M-E content. And I think that's... you know what? Actually, we've seen so much insanity that fuck it, might even well be possible, but I don't think so. So weird, though. So weird. So the chart stuff is problematic. I would say that in Zin, we should assume UTF-8 encoding by default and not be necessarily friendly to other encodings. Like, who cares? Who cares about other encodings? I don't know. Maybe some people do care, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine. How dare you in your EBCDIC? Is that an old school music band? Oh, hey Gimli. So Ali Riza says the default is UTF-8 at least in browsers. It is not. It is not. If I remove the meta tag from this thing, you see, you saw weird characters. It does not default, and nothing defaults to UTF-8 by default, at least in my experience. So, yep. You know what? There's also probably reasons for this in terms of retrocompatibility. You still have old content on the internet which was not UTF-8 encoded by default. So if it has to default to anything, I would say it should probably default to ASCII. Actually, you know what probably is the case? That the browser has a default encoding expectation. Yeah, that's how it should be. So here's how it probably works. People in the past would pump out stuff that was not ASCII encoded, but it was one of these extended ASCIIs, and they would use the extended ASCII that made sense for their region. The one where all the 8-bit characters are chosen as characters that they make sense for their region. So for example, Europe, Italy, the kind of encoding that we would use would have like accented letters, while some other, I don't know, like Eastern Europe language or, well, region would default to one of those ASCII extensions that has a different character set in the final 256 character. No, what is it? 128 characters? Yeah, in the final 128 characters. And so the idea is that they would not declare their encoding anywhere. Plain text would be mostly understandable by anybody. HTML content, like structural HTML stuff like the tags, that would be normal ASCII and it would work for everybody. And then you would only get weird artifacts whenever accented letters or similar things would be involved. So you would probably have your browser default to the specific weird encoding, the weird ASCII dialect that made sense for your region, and that was it. But I don't even know how this stuff is supposed to work anymore. Let's see, for example, Chrome default encoding. Chrome 55 has removed the encoding menu and Chrome will do auto encoding detection now. Well, okay, so this stuff is not even accessible to people anymore. But this is probably how it would work. And so this is the situation that the web started with, and this is probably what they have to be backwards compatible with. Okay, so what did we learn from this? I don't know what we actually learned, honestly. I don't know what we actually learned. So Johnny, I don't think I can really use your thing without modifying it at least, because the problem is this is already doing some parsing and it's going to bake in assumptions that I don't want to keep. For example, this will, I think, happily accept double opening tags and like output an implicitly closing thing. You know what? Actually, let's test it out. Let's not assume. Let's try it out. So let's call it tags, and this one contains this. This, sorry, with that mistake. So this unfortunately is valid HTML, and I don't think it should be. So I guess I can keep the first one. That one is gonna be the same. So fine. Actually, the second one is also gonna be the same. Yeah, things start changing at the third one. Okay, let's see what we get here. For HTTP 1.1, HTTP defines the default character set for text to be ISO 88591, a superset of US ASCII. Oh god. Thank you. Expected type info, blah blah blah, star tag, found char. Oh wait, am I even switching around expected and actual? No, I am not. Oh, it's this thing that is okay, you know what, let's remove this. Okay, start tag expected 16, found 22, 24. Okay, so this is the start tag. Then we don't want to do the weird car stuff, so let's keep it empty. There's only two H1s, one after the other. This still succeeds, fine. Let's create another one. What do we get? Yeah, we get another start tag. Well, to be fair, this is fine. This is not inherently wrong. They're just, yeah, the parser is gonna say there's missing tags. Just the character token is weird. Yeah, it's just that, you know, all the lines are blurry now because this thing is pseudo parsing stuff a bit, so it's confusing to to keep in mind what's supposed to do what, because things are doing things that are not supposed to do. Okay, so that makes sense. I guess maybe I would want to change the single character tokens, and then we would be up and running, I guess. I wonder what happens if I introduce another type of error. Like, what if I delete this? What happens? It gives me a char, right? Makes sense. Okay. Okay, so this is it. I need to make that change, and then start working on the parser. Okay. Carlos got there. Gears of the King. I love the way he explains things. I don't know. I'm mostly complaining. I'm more complaining than explaining. And apparently, ultimately, HTTP did define an encoding for text. Although, like, I'm actually not even sure. Like, Recreepio, like, what is text in this context specifically? Like, okay, HTTP 1.1 spec. So what is it text? Context, hypertext. Transfer encoding registry. Like, it's unclear to me what text is supposed to be specifically for HTTP 1.1. Because so is this like a body type? They can have, let's see, field, status line, request line, message body. The message body, if any, of an HTTP 1.1 message is used to carry content for the requester or response. Identical to content unless the transfer encoding has been applied. The message body is identical to the content unless a transfer coding has been applied, as described in section 6.1. Okay, so we'll get there in a moment. Message body, 0 or more octets, so bytes. The rules for determining when a message body is present in an HTTP 1.1 message differ for requests and responses. The presence of a message body in a request is signaled by a content length or transfer encoding header field. Oh, right, transfer encoding is like chunked. I remember. Request message framing is independent of method semantics. The presence of a message body in a response depends on both the request method to which is responding and the response status code. Transfer encoding, blah, 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 is analogous to the content transfer encoding field of mirror, which is designed to enable safe transport of binary data over a 7-bit transport device. A recipient must be able to parse the chunked transfer encoding because it plays a crucial role in framing messages when the content size is not known in advance. The sender must not apply the chunked transfer encoding more than once to a message body, i.e. chunking an already chunked message is not allowed. If any transfer coding other than chunked is applied to a request content, the sender must apply chunked as the final transfer coding to ensure that the message is properly framed. For example, gzip chunked. Content length, message body length, transfer codings, chunk transfer coding, chunk extensions, decoding chunked. Close the window so I don't recall the exact context. Blah, blah, blah has the text. Therefore, if a text /star media type given in the content type header field does not already include an explicit charset parameter. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it could very well be that it's one of those things that maybe is written in the spec, but then was never really followed, or was either like a little bit too late, so you already had like a wild variety of implementations by then. Stuff like that for sure. I think that what I was mentioning earlier about everybody having their own flavor of ASCII dialect encoding, it's probably fairly accurate because it really tracks with my experience in the past. Like if I think about the early 2000s, that's kind of how things worked very often. Things would be fine mostly for your language. Whenever you switch to a different language, especially if the language was like, I think like, I don't know, Italian, French, everything would be fine, always render correctly. But then once you switch to Eastern Europe or something funkier, the plain text stuff, you know, the normal ASCII range, the 7-bit ASCII range would be fine, but the final bits, they would be weird. So yeah. Okay. enough history. So we studied enough. So here's what I'm gonna do, I think. I am going, I think, to end the stream here. I'm still trying to get used to streaming, by the way. I'm slowly ramping up to normal lengths. I'm gonna take a break. I will take a look at the tokenizer from Johnny, see if it's not too complicated to make it output more than one character at a time. And so we have our tokenizer at that point, and then that means writing a parser. One thing that we want to care about is have the parser behave in a reasonable way when it encounters an error. And yeah, I would say that's pretty much it. Yep. So let me see if there's anybody that I can send you all to on Twitch. So Primogen is live, but I'm being lazy. Unless somebody from the Z community is actually streaming right now, I think I won't do any raiding. Let's see. And nobody's streaming as far as I know, so I think I'm gonna just call it a day. So thank you all for hanging out. Hope you had fun, I guess, watching me struggle against HTML. So I'll probably see you tomorrow, where we make a little bit more progress. So see you all. Bye bye.